What's up, everybody, and welcome to today's Tableau walkthrough. In this video, we're going to talk about how to use parameters. Using parameters can make views more interactive, it can make your data visualizations more dynamic, and bring more flexibility to your report. Or it can help you experiment with what-if scenarios. So let's get into it. The first thing you need to do is open your Tableau application. And the second thing you need to do is connect to your data source. And for this particular example, we're going to connect to the World Indicators data source because we're going to incorporate a lot of things that we've done in some past videos. We got world data, which is geographical data, the latitude and longitude. We're going to build some filters, and we're also going to create the parameter. To connect to our data source, we're going to navigate to the Connect panel, scroll down and go to World Indicators, click World Indicators, and now you see a worksheet that looks similar to this. Once you click on the World Indicator data source, you should have a worksheet, a blank worksheet that looks similar to this. And now we have the capability to start the creation of our parameter. We could start off with creating our parameter first, but that would mess up the flow of how you would probably do it in practice. So the first thing we need to do is create a visualization. The second thing we need to do is to create a filter. Then finally, we'll create a parameter. So first, let's create our data visualization. We're first going to build a map view. And to build a map view, we need the latitude and longitude. If we navigate to the data pane, we can see that we have latitude here and longitude here. We're going to double click both the latitude and the longitude. So we're double clicking the latitude first, and then we're going to double click the longitude. And now we have our map view. The second thing we're going to do is add a filter, and specifically a filter on the year. So we have year here under our data pane, which is right under region, right above measure names. And we're going to drag that into our filter shelf. So we drag that up to our filter shelf, and it's going to ask us what we want to do and how we want to filter the particular field. We're going to click by years. We're going to hit next. Then we have multiple years, but for this particular case, we're just going to focus on the latest year, which is 2012. So if you, let me select none, and then now click 2012, and then you click OK to apply. Now you have a filter on just the year 2012. The next thing we want to do is to create a March tab that identifies the countries that we actually care about in our map. Just give us another level of detail for our data visualization. Now we just have a full map, but let's say we want to visualize each individual country, or maybe even highlight each individual country. To do that, let me back out. We need to drag this country and region tab to our March card and put it into detail. And now we have some detail instead of this automatic dot. Under this mark card, which I'm not a fan of, we click the down arrow and then we click map. And now we have something highlighted, which is perfectly fine. This is the default. And next, let's say we're doing some analysis, and specifically analysis on countries, but related to birth rate. And we need to just identify and understand what's the birth rate per country. And the way to do that is basically, if I zoom out just a little bit, mine's a little bit cut off, but yours should look a little bit better. It's going to take a little while to fix, but while that's loading, we'll add birth rate to the label. And birth rate is typically represented as a percentage. So I am going to click this down arrow next to the birth rate, go to Format, and then under Default, where it says Numbers, I'm going to down click, then click Percentages, and then I want possibly 1 decimal place. And then now you'll see that it's updated. We press OK, and that's going to be the birth rate per country. I'm going to pause here just so I can get my visualization back into an appropriate zoom field, and then I'll come back and we'll work on creating a calculated field for our analysis. Now we're back, and the reason mine was zoomed incorrectly was because of this pin here, this thumbtack, and it fixes the map at a certain position. I had to click that so that it could remove it and fix the map so that it could zoom in and zoom back out properly. But now let's get into creating a calculated field that will determine if our birth rate is high or low for a particular country. To do this, I need to exit out my format options, which is right next to the format sum birth rate. Click the X. The next thing we need to do is create a calculated field on birth rate. So there are 2 different options, actually 3 different options now that I'm going to introduce you to. The first one is to go to Analysis and scroll down to create calculated field. The second option is to hit the down arrow in the data pane and then create calculated field. This is also a sneak peek of creating a parameter as well. And the last option is to right click the field you want to create the calculated field about. If you right click, you hit create, then you have that ability to create a calculated field from the variable in the data pane. So I am going to create calculated field. Now birth rate automatically populates in my function in my dialog box. So for this particular calculation, we're going to name this high birth rate because we're looking to identify the high birth rate countries. And then we're going to use the if statements. The if statement, well, actually, for this particular case, since we're only using 2 different outcomes, I'm going to use the if statement. Well, there's 2 different outcomes, so I'm going to use the if statement. And just for visibility purposes, I am going to have the description pane to my right that describes all the variables that I'm going to use. And then if, I'm going to click if, and then I'm going to copy this variable because this is what I want to test. And basically, I copied it using Control-C and then Control-V to paste it. It would be Command-C or Command-V to paste if you're using a MacBook. And then to consider the birth rate to be high, we're going to say it's greater than or equal to 0.014 or 1.4%. The next thing is our then statement. So if it is high, we want to output the string high. Then else, this is considered a low birth rate. And now you should have a calculated field that is going to show you or calculate if a birth rate is high or not, and we can use it in our data visualization. So to do this, we already know that our calculation is valid. We're going to press OK. And now we have a string variable under population that's calculating high birth rate. Now let's incorporate it in our visualization. To do this, we can just drag the high birth rate into the color under March card. We drop it here, and now we can see our low as red, high as orange, and the blue is actually no. The next thing that we want to do is to create our parameter. So now that you have your calculated field created, now you want to create a parameter. And the reason you want to create a parameter is maybe the birth rate may be considered high at a different number or a different percentage. We need a parameter so that we can change this variable dynamically. To do that, we need to hit the drop down arrow, click create parameter. Then let's name this variable set the birth rate. This is going to be our global variable or global parameter in this particular case. I'm thinking of coding terms. And there we go. The next thing we care about is making it a float, which it already is. And you have different options: integer, string, boolean, date, time, spatial. Then we're going to say automatic. Current value is 0.014. Then we just have that ability to change it. So we're just going to say keep that as a current value. Then we're going to, because this is just the value of it when it opens. And then the allowable values, we're going to allow it to be a range. And it's going to be a minimum of 0.005, a maximum of 0.06, and then the step size is going to be 0.001. So this gives us a little bit more flexibility. I put too many zeros under the 5, so let's actually delete one of those zeros. So it's 0.005. It automatically changed the default variable, which is fine. We'll leave it at that. Or, well, no, let's change it back. I want it to be 1.4. So that's because we already have that. So whatever result we have is going to mimic the result we currently have. Then after we've done that, we press OK, and nothing has changed yet. And that was because we haven't changed our calculated field. So now we need to change the calculated field that we've created previously, that is the high birth rate. Click the down arrow next to the calculated field, hit edit up here, and now you have access to your calculation. You're going to change this. This is going to be replaced with the parameter. So you just have to type the name of the parameter you've created, and the name of the parameter that we created was the set birth rate, which is down here. It's really hidden, so I'm going to pull it up a little bit. Parameter are going to be its own little folder, and this is where our set birth rate would be. And we just need to start typing set birth rate. And so now, based on our parameter, this value or this condition will change. So it's already valid. We say the calculation is valid. Press OK. And even it says it's dependent. So now it's dependent on this sheet one that we're actually working with. We press OK. And then, similar to what we've done with filters, we want a key here. We have to right click this, and then we'll right click the set birth rate parameter, and then click show parameter. And now we have the parameter here. Now you can see that there is a scroll bar to change the rate depending on what we decide to do. So let's say we want to start at the minimum. Let's drag it all the way down and see how our visualization changed. So all these values are considered high now because they're not lower than the minimum. Now we can, like I said, it's a step size of 0.1. So eventually, once we keep going, we keep clicking this arrow, we eventually get some low values. So around 0.9, we start to get low values in our particular birth rate for particular countries. And we can keep going, and it will change our view dynamically based on our set birth rate. So this is how you create a parameter in Tableau. Let's name this parameter. Now we have changed our title name, and this concludes our creation of a parameter in Tableau. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.